Rest of the program, Japanese Trader Radio Part.070. Today is August 2nd, 2026, Sunday. By Giffen Crowd. 1 FX, 11 Surveillance, 111 Price Movement, 1111 this week's bid price of the target currency pair, pound dollar from 1.334 to 1.345. The dollar weakened on Friday night. I attribute this depreciation to joint foreign exchange intervention by the US, Japan, and South Korea. 112 this week's bid price movement of all currency pairs. Dollar yen from 163.8 to 157.4, minus 640 pips, minus 3.9%. Euro yen minus 480 pips. Pound yen minus 580 pips. Euro dollar plus 150 pips. Pound dollar plus 160 pips. Euro pound plus 20 pips. 112 economic indicators. 121 this week's economic indicators. Thursday 3, the US Fed interest rate decision. The actual is 3.75%. The decision to hold off on an interest rate hike led to a weaker dollar. Thursday 20, the UK BOE interest rate decision. The actual is 3.75%. Thursday 21:30, the US Core PCE Price Index MOM. The actual is 0.1%. 31st, Friday 12, Japan BOJ interest rate decision. The actual is 1%. Coupled with Japan's policy of cutting consumption tax, the situation was such that the sharp depreciation of the yen, like the trust shock in the UK, could easily have occurred, but the currency was supported by market intervention. 31st, Friday, 18 EU inflation rate YOY flash. The actual is 2.9%. 112 next week's economic indicators. 3rd, Monday 23, the US ISM manufacturing PMI. 5th, Wednesday 21:15, the US ADP employment change. 5th, Wednesday 23, the US ISM services PMI. 7th, Friday 21:30, the US non-farm payrolls. 103 this week's news and events that seem to be factored in. In the stock market, earnings announcements for AI and semiconductor companies are concentrated. Moreover, an unusual price pattern has emerged, where stocks plummeted immediately after the release, despite reporting strong results. There is a view that the current sharp drop in stock prices differs from the bursting of the bubble. In the FX market, the US dollar plummeted following the announcement of the US policy interest rate. Additionally, amidst the record depreciation of the yen, currency market intervention was conducted just before the Bank of Japan announced its policy interest rate. It was a roller coaster of a week. News events that don't seem to be factored in. The situation in Iran appears to have calmed down. However, because US President Trump frequently changes his stance, the market is unable to fully price in the developments, and the market is fearful of further currency intervention. 114. Next week's FX trading strategy and tactics. This week, the yen depreciated due to currency intervention. I'm considering buying dollars and selling yen. I should avoid taking long positions on the dollar without first verifying the fundamentals through economic indicators. Otherwise, I'll be burned by further currency intervention. Stock prices of AI and semiconductor companies are rebounding, typically when the Japanese government intervenes in the currency market and the yen appreciates. Stock prices plummet, leading to a decline in public support. I believe that amidst the recent sharp drop in stock prices, Japanese government carried out the intervention at the unusual timing of an ongoing Bank of Japan monetary policy meeting, because it had confirmed the intention of large-scale investors to buy back shares and had determined that a currency intervention would not trigger a further plunge in stock prices. I am prepared for the dollar-yen exchange rate to 152 yen I adapt the strategy of buying US dollars only after confirming that stock prices have stabilized. Set the target just below 160 yen. Two stock to one surveillance 211 surveillance of 会社式ホームランズ9193東京汽船 Stock price rise driven by price increases, concerned raises over rises associated with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Operating profit fluctuates between profit and loss, lacking stability. 9343 IBIS Operating profit strategies, improving management efficiency through AI is beneficial. 212 Surveillance of holding and prospected holding brands. 2858 Kyokushia Holdings from 54,550 to 46,500. The company announced plans to conduct a share buyback capped at 5.5% of its total outstanding shares over a relatively short period from August to October 2026. The move aims to improve capital efficiency and return value to shareholders in an agile and swift manner amidst falling share prices. For the time being, I would assume a peak will be reached in mid-October. 9984 Sofan Group from 5,331 to 5,260. 6963 Loan Company Limited from 4,628 to 4,331. 6674 GS Yuasa Corporation from 5,793 to 5,482. 7806 MTG from 7,610 to 7,610. 5058 Geekly 1,379 to 1,301. 22 Inspection Holding 2858 Kyokushia Holdings. I watched the video in which a former Nomura Securities employee explained the reasons behind the sharp drop in the share prices of semiconductor stocks. The debate surrounding the stock prices of memory semiconductor manufacturers has been settled by the conclusion that they are driven by unit prices. The reason for Kyokushia's strong financial performance is the high price of memory, a cost borne by hyperscalers. The issue surrounding the future of AI and semiconductors ultimately boils down to the question of how long hyperscaler investments will continue. The market has begun to realize that investment in hyperscalers, including equity financing, cannot continue indefinitely. Furthermore, state-backed Chinese manufacturers could trigger a collapse in prices. Against this backdrop, stock prices have recently been plummeting. On the other hand, recent earnings reports have confirmed that hyperscalers are not halting their AI investments. Given this, the demand for memory semiconductors required for high-end AI data centers is robust, suggesting that the current stock price, trading at a PER of 7 times, is undervalued. Stock price movements following this week's earnings results will serve as a litmus test for further investments in AI and semiconductors. Having entered the trade with the understanding that high volatility was to be expected, I must assess this situation, otherwise I cannot properly review and learn from the trade. 3 others, 3-1 varying inspections. Last week, in violation of the rules, I repurchased Kyokushia shares on a weekday despite the sharp drop falling within the range of what I had anticipated. I spent the weekend feeling down. Lately, I had been placing orders immediately, skipping the inspection phase. I would come up with reasons for these intuitive orders only after the fact. A key lesson learned from the Kyokushia acquisition processes is the importance of taking the time to formulate hypotheses and making decisions only after scrutinizing them alongside opposing views. This likely applies to FX trading as well. I reaffirmed the need to study trading through self-discipline and to incorporate feedback into my own methodology, regardless of whether I win or lose. 3. To work in the age of AI. I constantly wonder whether AI could take over the work that I or the people around me do. I find my work tedious, so I want my work procedures to be implemented in AI as soon as possible, so I can retire and secure time for leisure. However, current AI capabilities are not advanced enough to replace my job. Therefore, I want to contribute by refining the standardizations and documentation of my work processes, thereby enabling AI to learn the tasks effectively. Ironically, this has become a source of motivation for me in my work. I bought Kyokshare shares at a high price and have suffered a massive unrealized loss over the past week. However, the high volatility was within my expectations, and the premise for the purchase remains intact, so I have not exited the position. If anything, I'm glad I was able to thoroughly learn about the future shaped by AI, something I hadn't previously considered in personal terms. I want to maintain a positive outlook. Thank you for listening. Bye!